perhaps not today. Commissioner Marcela Pino.
Present. Hi, everyone.
Hello. Commissioner Jean Toner, I understand, is out today for health reasons. Commissioner Christine Tucci. Okay, so the four of us that we have are myself and Dan Duke and Commissioners Hardy and Gebler, is that right?
Yes, that is correct. Commissioner Tucci may be joining us in a little bit, but we do have a quorum to be able to move forward.
Oh, that is so awesome. Thank you for being
Hey, Dee, sorry, just to clarify, this is Commissioner Pino who's here, not Commissioner Gebler.
Oh. See, I lost track already. So apologies all over the place. I'm so sorry.
No problem. No problem.
Does anyone want to read our mission statement? Volunteer?
Dee, I'll read it. This is Commissioner Pino. Our mission is a commission to foster support, respect, awareness, and appreciation of diversity among all citizens of Flagstaff.
Thank you for that. Would someone like to read the land acknowledgement today?
I will. This is Dan. Land acknowledgement. The Commission on Diversity Awareness humbly acknowledges the ancestral homelands of this area's indigenous nations and original stewards. These lands, still inhabited by native descendants, border mountains sacred to indigenous people. We honor them, their legacies, their tradition, and their continued contributions. We celebrate their past, present, and future generations who will forever know this place as home.
Thank you very much, Dan. Thanks. The next thing on our agenda is upcoming announcements or upcoming opportunities and announcements. And this is a new agenda item that I would like to have as a standing agenda item. And as time goes on, maybe not today, but as time goes on, I'll be interested in whether or not this is working out for us. So we'll try it on for size and we'll see. But what I'd like to do with this is have it as an opportunity for those of us on the commission to make announcements or to announce opportunities in the community for the information of the rest of us that are on the commission. In other words, there is public participation for people from the public to do this kind of thing, but there's really not been an opportunity in our meeting for those of us who are on the commission to do this kind of thing. I see this as a time when those of us who have announcements to make would tell the rest of the commission whatever we have to say. It's not open for discussion. It's not open for a vote. There may be perhaps a clarifying question asked, but really it's not something that I envision taking very much time. And it's a time when Jessica may also have announcements for things that she wants us to be aware of. So it's a time to add those as well. There may be, for example, activities in the city of Flagstaff that we all should know about, but that one commissioner brings to us just as an announcement. That's an example. And maybe it's something that is in favor of diversity, or maybe it's something that's inhibiting diversity. But in any case, it perhaps is something that we should be aware of. So just wanted to try this on our agenda, and I've already gone on longer than I intended to about it. I think there are a few such announcements that Jessica might like to make. And then if there are any that the rest of you would like to add, let me know.
Thank you so much, Chair Wegwart. I did add a few announcements just to kick off this new section of the agenda. And so the first one is to congratulate Chair Toner, Vice Chair Toner, who's absent today, and Commissioner Pino on their reappointments for the commission. Congratulations.
Woo!
Yay!
Yay.
All of our spots are still filled, so that's really exciting.
That is exciting, and congratulations. I agree. Okay.
The next announcement is just some follow-up from the last meeting in February. The diversity survey has been posted on our Commission on Diversity Awareness webpage, as well as the community asset map. And in addition, the community asset map was posted on the community resources webpage of the city website. And I will click on this just so everyone can get a visual of the website again. And should be down here. I titled it Commission Projects and Announcements, and so you'll see the Diversity Commission with the link to that presentation that was done to council, and then the community asset map as well.
Very good.
Commissioner Toner may have had some updates, although just given that she wasn't able to attend today, we'll move on. She did provide wanted to provide some updates on where the community asset map was posted. The only other update I wanted to provide is, since this commission has had some agenda items that work closely in partnership with the Indigenous Commission, just as an update, the Indigenous Commission now meets monthly, which is great instead of bi-monthly, and it is the first Wednesday of each month from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Thank you. Does anyone else have anything that they would like to announce for information of the rest of the group? Okay.
Hi, Chair Wegwart. This is Commissioner Pino. No announcement, just to say that I really like the addition of this section. So thanks for you and Jessica for working on that.
That's good feedback to have. Thank you for that. And actually, I was thinking about you in particular, being involved with as a diversity fellow, that there may be times when you have news or information to bring to us from that part of your life as well, that would be worthwhile for us to know about. So something to consider for future.
That's a great reminder, Chair Wegwart. I do have one announcement. I'm not sure how broadly this is known, but NAU, the new president recently announced that there will be a search for a chief diversity officer at NAU, which will be in the form of a vice president reporting into the president on his kind of main cabinet. So that will be happening next fiscal year. The search is expected to begin in the fall. So hopefully that can be another alliance for us on the NAU community side.
Oh, that's exciting. Yes, thank you for sharing that. Appreciate that. Okay, I'm going to, if there are no other announcements, I'm going to move on to the next section of the agenda, which is public comment. Do we have public comments today?
Yes. Jessica, I think I gave you notice that I wanted to speak today.
Yes, thank you so much.
All right, so I'm gonna need to have the screen if that's possible. Great, thank you. Let me get this up. And 1 second. So I assume you can all see my presentation now, correct?
I can see it. Thank you. Would you mind?
Yes, so Chair, Vice Chair, and Commissioners, I'm Jana Weldon. I'm the Beautification Arts and Sciences Project Administrator. And my public comment today is an invitation for one of the commissioners to join a working group that we are putting together for the Indigenous Representation Project at Sawmill Multicultural Art and Nature County Park. That's a big name. But I think most of you know the Sawmill Park. It's right off of Lone Tree, by the mall there. But I'll give you a little bit of background to help you see if you're interested in joining this working group. Basically, we have dedicated funding for cultural projects that incorporate Indigenous representation. And we've been having a series of investigatory meetings with Rose Tohi, the coordinator for Indigenous Initiative, to explore a lot of potential projects. The Coconino County Parks and Recreation initiated rotating art projects at the Sawmill Park, but they have not really had the resources or the staff or the money to continue the rotating art. And so we thought, we did a site visit. We thought that we could step in and use our funding to create, art in that place. And so this project was prioritized to initiate in 2022 and install in 2023. But we want a working group to help us determine exactly what the scope is, even before we put out a call for artwork or to artists. So the park has 5 pedestals ready for artwork, and this is the one of the pedestals down here in the right-hand corner. I also draw your attention to the fact that they have a little performing stage and a gazebo as well. So one of the things that the working group will explore and help staff to shape in the scope is, yes, we want to rotate art, but how often should that be? Every year? Every 3 years? It has to be more durable the longer it's out, but shorter periods of time will require more costs and staff time. We want to settle on an appropriate fee. We want feedback from this work group on that. We want to determine if on one of the pedestals, maybe we need some kind of platform that would hold 2-dimensional art, because many Indigenous artists don't work in sculpture, but they work in 2-dimensional. So that's something we want to explore with this working group. Do we want to include performative art and use that gazebo and use that stage? Or maybe just along the pathway? And then the funding is for Indigenous representation, but Rose Tohi had wanted to possibly expand the scope to include other diverse cultural representation as well. So we need to determine what's the guiding principles for that. And then what kind of selection process should we have, and what's the criteria for the selection? So these are all the things that we will be exploring with a working group. And we would have an on-site visit probably sometime in May or June, and it could be a couple of hours, and there would probably be 1 or 2 follow-up meetings in the summer, working with everybody's schedules. So this is who we want to be on the working group to advise staff. So you can see all the commissions and councils that would be contributing members. And so I am essentially here to ask who from your commission would be interested. And if you are interested, to please contact me or send your interest to Jessica and she can forward it to me. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for bringing this to us. I'm trying to think of how to proceed and whether or not we need to have this on the perhaps April agenda to determine a representative from our group. Anyone else have thoughts about how to proceed? It's obviously as a public participation item, not something we can discuss at the moment. Jessica, let's add that to our agenda for April.
Will do. I have noted that for April under discussion.
That's great. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, everybody.
Any other public participation? Okay, the next agenda item that we have is approval of minutes from our February 15th meeting. And I looked through the minutes and I did not see any changes or corrections that I would want to make, and interested in any comments from other commissioners. And if there are none, maybe someone would move to accept them.
I motion to accept those. This is Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
Hi, Commissioner Pino. I second the motion.
Great, thank you. All in favor? Of
Aye.
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 Okay. And any opposed? I think we had unanimous approval there. So thank you. Good, that's taken care of. And thank you, Jessica, for the amazing minutes. You do a great job. I really appreciate it. Date of the next meeting. Our next meeting would fall on April 19th at 1:30 p.m. And it's so helpful if people are able to make it who are on the commission so that we do have a quorum. I know of no conflicts for myself. Is there any reason not to keep that date? Do those of you who are here know if you are able, as far as you know, to make that date?
This is Dan. I have no schedule conflict.
Thank you.
This is Claire. I'm so sorry if you just heard me crunching on chips. I thought that I had my microphone muted. I'm so sorry. I feel embarrassed. I should be able to attend that date. I will be out of town, hopefully the weekend or the week before that. But yeah, I think if a conflict arises or my travel plans change, I'll let you know as soon as possible.
That's really helpful. Okay.
Hi, everyone. This is Commissioner Pino. I'm also able to attend that date and time.
That's great. I realize that none of us have a crystal ball, and like Commissioner Toner today was not realizing that she would not be well and not able to attend. Things happen, but it really helps to know if we have a date when we at least think we can all be there. So we will keep that date of April 19th for our next meeting. We're up to number 8 on our agenda, action items, regular meetings. And we wanted to talk about the length of our regular meetings and discuss and vote on moving the meeting start time. And I'm not remembering why we were thinking about moving the start time. Jessica, do you remember or fill in a blank here?
Yes, I added this item. I'm actually glad Mayor DC is also available. I guess we can go in either order, but and I can let you speak to the length of the meetings first, but it was brought up again to alleviate any conflict with the council meetings and to allow the council representatives an opportunity. We had briefly talked about this last meeting or the meeting before, and it was decided that the date of the week works really well. And some members were open and available to meeting earlier in the day, which would certainly allow less conflict between the council meetings.
Yes. Some time ago, the commission had, Dan, you might remember this. I think it was a couple years ago, we decided that an hour was not enough for our meetings, and we decided to go for an hour and a half. So we had changed our time frame from 1:30 to 2:30, changed it to 1:30 to 3 p.m. as our time frame for our meetings. And I have to level with you. I still think that an hour is not enough time to get everything in that we need to do. So that's just my opinion. And it's all right if we end a meeting early, but it's really troublesome if we run too much overtime. And so it'd probably be better to have a wider time frame and end early if we're done than to expect people to stay past the scheduled time. Just saying. This one is kind of hard to address without everybody here. I want to open it up for the discussion of the group. What do you think?
Chair Wegwer, I just wanted to mention Mayor DC had his hand up.
Oh, I'm
If you-
sorry. I really apologize.
No worries.
Mayor
No
DC?
problem. And regarding the hour and a half, I can't really speak to that, but when on Tuesdays, typically about except about once a month, do we have executive session before the general council meeting that typically starts at 1 o'clock. So it has been more difficult for myself to participate like I would like to and have my finger on the pulse as liaison, or whoever may take the position come December when we then decide who's on which commissions. But again, it's far more important that the actual commissioners, that the time works for you all than it is the liaison. It just is difficult sometimes with the legal sessions that I have to run that are typically started at 1 o'clock on a Tuesday.
What would be workable for you so that we aren't just choosing something else randomly and that won't work either,
Yeah, certainly. Thank you. Honestly, Wednesdays tend to be my lightest day because I clear it off after some council meetings last 8 hours straight.
Oh.
But honestly, it's just the times between really between noon and 8 p.m. on Tuesdays are the time where it's really mandatory that I am at the council meetings and so forth. Whereas I typically can rearrange my schedule accordingly to participate on other days. But again, it's more important for you all to have a time where you can maximize the number of commissioners here as opposed to the liaison. But just wanted to highlight some of the difficulties I've had in being able to join you all.
I appreciate that, and I don't want to diminish the support that you offer. I really appreciate your interest and your being willing to be in on our meetings and know what we're up to. I really am grateful for that. I'm looking at notes about commissioners. The trouble that I'm feeling right now is that there are 4 of us out of 7 here. I'm pretty sure that Commissioner Toner has some flexibility. Jessica, did you have a thought about this?
Yeah, thank you. I had a similar thought, and just with the number of members that are not available today, I can send out a survey that lists various days of the weeks and days of the week and times. And I could send out that survey as a poll to every commission member, and we could get some feedback on availability and what would work best for everyone. The city clerk's office had recommended about a 10:30, 11 latest starting on Tuesday, since I know Tuesdays seem to be the best for our commission members, but I could send out a survey and we can kind of reconvene. I could bring the results to the next meeting if that would work best, or we can set up a special work session if needed.
I think that would be a great way to go about this, because I'm trying to reach consensus during a meeting, I think is going to take a lot of our time. And if we have a sort of a starting place, I think that would be enormously helpful. So let's do that. Let's see if we can, with a survey, determine some other times, perhaps singular or plural, that would work for us, and then bring that back to the next meeting. Mayor Deasy, from your point of view, would that be acceptable?
That is a great idea. Just doing a little doodle poll would be perfect, and I appreciate your consideration in this manner.
Thank you. Okay. Is there anything else that we need to discuss with that? I think that hopefully we'll take care of that for now, and then we'll get back to it. Item 8B is proclamations work group update. And I'm seeing from the agenda that we have some proclamations that will be taken to the city council for May, which really means that we need to have them at our meeting in April. I don't know if there are any updates today at all.
Thank you, Chair. I'll go ahead and step in. So since Commissioner Toner and Commissioner Gebler weren't able to attend, they did send in a proclamation, though, for the team to review. We do have 2 scheduled for May. That's Mental Health Awareness Month and Asian American and Pacific Islander Month. They did submit one for the Commission's review and, if appropriate, approval today. And then that way we only would have one at the next April meeting. So I'll just go ahead and pull it up. We have AAPI as the first one this month, and then the mental health awareness would be reviewed next month. So
Okay.
hopefully everyone can see that. I can. Oops.
And if you don't mind, I'll just read through it because I think it helps to have just to go through all the words. The city of Flagstaff celebrates the rich cultural traditions and proud ancestry of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, and we recognize the vital contributions Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders have made to strengthen and diversify our community. Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders have played a vital role in the early development of Flagstaff through family-owned businesses and neighborhoods and creation of transportation infrastructure. Asian American and Pacific Islanders have continued to contribute to the building of a vibrant Flagstaff community as educators and administrators, business owners, sports figures, and in public service. Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders continue to play an integral role in the shaping, developing, and creation of the future of all sectors of our city. Despite the invaluable contributions and achievements of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, their narratives and roles have been consistently underheard and undervalued in American history, literature, and education. Beginning with the COVID-19 pandemic, hate crimes against the AAPI communities have surpassed previous all-time highs on a national level and in Arizona. During AAPI Heritage Month, we counter discrimination through the celebration of the AAPI community, and we focus on education in the history of AAPI communities in Flagstaff and nationally. Flagstaff City Council established the Commission on Diversity Awareness to advise the City Council on issues and methods in promoting diversity awareness within the City of Flagstaff, and in fulfilling that charge, the Commission on Diversity Awareness supports the designation of May 2022 as Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, in unison with national and statewide observances. And then there's the statement for Mayor Deasy at the end here. So that is what our work group has proposed. Is there any discussion? I like it that it's real time, that it's current. It's not just a reprint from quite a while ago. Commissioner Pino?
Yes, no, I think it's great. I like the relevancy with the call out to COVID-19, but I do think that sentence read a little bit odd to me. I don't know if it was just a formatting or grammatical flow, but beginning with the COVID-19 pandemic, hate crimes against the AAPI communities have surpassed previous all-time highs on a national level and in Arizona. Can we scrap the beginning with and just read that sentence as the COVID-19 pandemic hate crimes? Or am I missing something with that sentence?
I'm pondering that sentence. I'm not ignoring what you're saying.
Oh, no, it's no problem.
I suspect that the intent was to say something about this started with COVID-19, that the escalation of hate crimes, escalated with the advent of COVID. But I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
maybe we reframe to that, because I think the history, it's a little bit counterintuitive from the prior sentence, which calls out the longer history.
True. hate crimes against the API communities have escalated since.
I like that. What do others think?
I mean, maybe just wordsmith that sentence just a little bit. I get the intent in that regard, because I think that there always have been hate crimes and things that shouldn't have happened, obviously. But since COVID-19, it feels like there is more of a problem. So starting the sentence with hate crimes. Hate crimes against the API communities have escalated. And I'm not sure where to go there, since COVID-19 or escalated during the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm thinking while I'm talking, this is never good. And then surpassed previous all-time highs. Commissioner Pino, does this
That sounds great to me, Chair Wegwert.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is Claire. I agree with I like that edit. I think it is communicating the message of that better. Thank you, commissioners, for editing and revising that. I appreciate it. It looks good to me.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else that anyone would suggest needs to be changed? And not hearing anything, I move that we accept the wording of this proclamation with its with the changes that we just made. Is there a second?
I'll second that. This is Commissioner Hardy.
Thank you. All in favor of accepting this with the changes?
Aye, Commissioner Pino.
Aye, Commissioner Duke.
And I, Commissioner Hardy.
And I, Commissioner Wegwert. Okay, we have that taken care of. Excellent. And then at our next meeting, we will talk about the other proclamation, Mental Health Awareness Month, I believe.
Yes, we will.
Okay.
And then I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen. Our next two items are reports and discussion. And I believe each of the presenters today have their own presentation to share. Just a reminder that since these are listed under the reports and discussion items, feel free to discuss any recommendations. You can always request a future agenda item to be placed on a future agenda item for discussion, and you can always reach out directly to each presenter with feedback and recommendations.
Excellent, thank you.
And first we do have Jenna Ortega, our City Staff Climate Engagement Coordinator.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Jenna Ortega, and I am the fairly new Climate Engagement Coordinator in the City Sustainability Office. So it's wonderful to be here today. I know you have a lot of important work going on, so thank you for offering me this time and the opportunity to share some information on climate advisory groups. I'm here to provide a short overview. I don't have a beautiful presentation for you, so sorry, but to answer questions, take feedback, and lastly, to ask if any of you can help us for building capacity for these groups. So to start us off, I'll kind of touch on what are climate advisory groups and why are they needed. So similar to many other, challenges we face here in Flagstaff, if we do not address climate change, we're going to continue to have inequity and the burden primarily falling on our vulnerable and underserved populations. We know that it is essential that solutions that address climate change here in Flagstaff must be developed through collaboration and by working really within our community and across various groups and with as many different people as possible. Climate advisory groups were recommended during the carbon neutrality plan development process, and they are now being initiated by our office to really offer an opportunity for ongoing community input for how we implement climate programs and work towards the very ambitious goals that the Flagstaff community has set around carbon neutrality. Our office hopes that advisory groups will help us better connect and understand the needs and offer support to the people, the businesses, and the organizations that we serve as an office in the city government. The overarching goal of climate advisory groups will be to center the voices of community members and to continuously improve how we are addressing climate change. Advisory groups will aim to, first and foremost, bring more local voices into climate action and decision making, to encourage more community participation, and especially we're hopeful to get more participation by impacted and vulnerable communities in the implementation of decisions that will directly impact them. They will also work to hopefully develop collaborative climate strategies that really serve our community and to help us build trust and ensure accountability when it comes to these decisions around climate programming and action. The 3 initial advisory groups, we hope to have plenty more one day, but we are starting with a youth group, a business group, and an equity group. So the goal is that each group will be a collective of Flagstaff residents with unique perspectives and certain expertise to advise on some of these specific issues in these sectors. So advisory members will work together to provide recommendations to advance our climate goals and also to ensure equity is embedded in climate solutions, which is one of the goals in the carbon neutrality plan. They will provide recommendations to help us identify needs and opportunities and challenges across different sectors. And they will help work to improve the inclusiveness, the relevance, the effectiveness, and the accessibility of climate programs and services. So I'll break down real quickly just those 3 groups. So the Youth Advisory Group, which recently started meeting, and they are so awesome. So this group is intended to serve as an opportunity for Flagstaff's young people to take part in advising on climate-related initiatives and ensure that youth perspectives are represented in climate planning. So the youth members are working alongside sustainability staff and hopefully interns as well. So they get some younger people than me working with them. And they are already setting their own priorities that will hopefully help us remain accountable to not only our climate goals, but future generations as well. Next up, the Business Advisory Group. The goal of this group is to really improve communication and create a bridge between local businesses and our city's climate program, and to really bring in that knowledge and skills that are so apparent in our business community and bring that into climate planning. They will advise on opportunities, but also on challenges that the business community might face when it comes to climate action. They'll provide recommendations on how we at the city can be a better partner and be a better resource to our businesses, and how we can support them while they are working towards reducing their own climate impacts, and perhaps encourage innovation on some of our goals. So that could be really cool. And for that group, we are looking for everyone from employees to CEOs to kind of get a mix of everyone who's in our business community. And last is the Equity Advisory Group. And this group will really work to prioritize those who will be most impacted by climate change and include them as partners in planning and decision making. So as a city, we made a commitment to center equity in climate action decisions and ensure all communities in Flagstaff can benefit from a carbon neutral future. So the aim of this group will be to bring in those voices and perspectives of currently or historically marginalized, underserved, or underrepresented community members into decision making. And they will advise and provide recommendations to help ensure that the benefits of climate action are fairly distributed, accessible to everyone, and are not causing unintentional harm. So I know that was kind of a lot of information squeezed into a quick introduction, and hopefully I didn't talk too fast, but I was going to follow up with some additional information, which can also be found on our website, which I can put in the chat. But our ask to the commission today is to help us encourage interest and participation and get the word out. Maybe you know someone who you think would be a good fit. Applications are currently open still for the business and equity advisory groups, closing staggered throughout the next couple months. And we would just love it if you could share with your networks, welcome them to apply, and I'll send you guys a message that you can easily forward on to your friends, family, contacts. So thank you so much. I appreciate this opportunity and your time. I'm happy to take any questions. Feedback is so important to us, so I would love to hear that. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing that with us. Really interesting. I see we have a couple of questions. Commissioner Hardy?
Thanks. Yeah, thank you for your presentation and for sending us like an email that we can send along. And I did just want to double check what is considered, for the purposes of these advisory groups, or for this advisory group, what is considered like local? Is it that the businesses need to be within Flagstaff, or people need to live within Flagstaff, or is it they need to work within Flagstaff?
Great question.
Yeah, that's my
Thank
question,
you.
I guess.
Yeah, so,
Thanks.
yeah, kind of one or the other. You know, even for our students, we have some students that are in FUSD, but they live a little bit outside of the city limits. So we want, you know, these folks to have a direct connection to Flagstaff. Maybe they are, you know, a business leader, work at a business in Flagstaff and have that community tie. So that's what we're hoping for, is a direct connection through Flagstaff, even if you happen to live outside of the city limits. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it sure does. Thank you so much.
Commissioner Pino, you have a question?
Yes, hello. Thank you so much for your presentation and for the work that you're doing on climate action. I love the structure of the 3 groups. My question for you is, as we're doing the call to participate, what is your expectation for how the groups will engage? Is there a certain number of hours kind of per month, or what is the overall commitment that we should be sharing when we're sending these with our networks?
Thank you for the question, and I will definitely make sure that is included. And I kind of have a follow-up I've been using, and it is in there. Just was trying to keep it quick. So for the 2 groups that are still accepting applications, our hope is once a month meetings for 1 to 2 hours. I'm kind of leaving it up. The youth group actually wanted to meet twice a month, which is awesome, and they meet for an hour and a half, but that's kind of our time commitment hopes, but we're willing to work with the group is 1 to 2 hours a month. And I did put on the website that, you know, a volunteer basis for additional projects that we can throw at people who may have that extra time, but if not, we understand that this is a big ask. So
Fantastic. Thank you.
How many people did you say are part of these groups, or what's your goal? You said that the youth group is already operational, and how many young people are participating?
we have 12. So my goal that I kind of have on there was 10 to 15. We got 12. Working with youth schedules was very challenging, and we had 12 that we thought were great applicants that could all meet at the same time. I put it up to them if they wanted to recruit a few more members, and they liked that number of 12. So we're sticking with that. But for the other groups, I have the same goal of 10 to 15. And we realized that this is kind of a new program and starting. So, our hopes is to continuously grow the groups and kind of leave that up to the members to, especially the equity advisory group. We're hoping to get a handful of people that have the time and the availability and can even help us build that group as we grow, because we realize we're not the experts in that world and work. So we're kind of just doing what we can and hoping that they will continue to evolve and grow throughout the years.
That sounds great. Is there, other than perhaps finding referrals, is there anything else that our group can do?
I mean, I think that would be a huge help. I've been following your work, and I think there's a lot of overlap. So as we start developing, I would love to continue to collaborate with you on projects that you may need help with, or vice versa. So I really see you guys as such a great group of allies and appreciate your work. So I would love to connect on that again. And right now, just getting the word out would be so helpful to us. So thank you.
I appreciate that. I really liked your comment. I think it was something like the burden of all of this falls on the most vulnerable of the diverse people among us. And I think that really resonated with me, and that's where we come in, I think. So thank you for the work that you're doing, and we'll hope to hear more perhaps as time goes on when appropriate. So thank you very much for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you guys all for the work you do.
And this is Jessica. I'll go ahead and copy that website into our meeting minutes when I send them out. So that way those commission members not in attendance have access to that website, and of course the recording, but at least they'll have the direct website also.
Thank you so much, Jessica. And I will probably follow up with you would be the best, and you can send out the follow-up email to everyone.
That would be great. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here. There's another presentation or discussion today.
Yeah, next we have David Wessel from Metro Plan. He's the planning manager with Metro Plan to talk about the Stride Forward Regional Transportation Plan. So I will, there we go, he's on.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. David Wessel, as you mentioned, planning manager with Metro Plan. We do regional transportation planning in the region. And Madam Chair and Jessica, I'd like to inquire how much time I have. I can tailor my presentation accordingly.
What would be optimal for you?
20 minutes?
Well, I think we can do that.
Okay. Well, if we can do that, I can do that. So thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Okay.
Could everybody see my screen now?
I can see it.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So, Madam Chair, members of the committee, again, David Wessel with Metro Plan. I'm here to talk about Stride Forward, our regional transportation plan. As I do that, I'll tell you a little bit about our organization, our plan, where we are in the process, and I have a couple simple questions for you. My purpose today is really more introductory than presenting of information. So a little bit about us as an organization. We've been around for about 25 years now. We recently rebranded from the Flagstaff Metropolitan Planning Organization to Metro Plan of Greater Flagstaff. We work collectively with the city, the county, Mountain Line Transit, NAU, and ADOT to do regional transportation planning for an area that actually shares boundaries with the city and county regional plan and the Mountain Line service area. So it's about 10 miles outside of the city limits in a large rectangle that includes Kachina, Mountain Air, Doney Park, Fort Valley, and Belmont. So the plan itself looks 20 to 25 years into the future and projects population, employment, and then the transportation network and services best suited to support them. We look to be very clear about the cost implications of the different strategies and projects we propose. In this particular update of the regional transportation plan, we do this every 5 years. We really want to look at economic development and environmental objectives. I think the previous presentation was pretty clear as to why we're going to do that. Another objective this time around is to help us define our vision, which is the very modest effort of creating the finest transportation system in the country. One of the questions I'll ask has to do with that. And then there's a lot of plans and policies either developed or in the works that we're trying to integrate and respond to. And finally, we want a robust public participation effort. As a kind of a context for the plan or a little background, our previous plans have been instrumental. Excuse me, I apologize for the dogs. Our plans have been instrumental in the 2018 elections for transportations, the sales tax, Proposition 419 and 420 for road projects and ped and bike projects. And before that, back in 2000, where the regional transportation plan, amongst other things, called for the establishment of a transportation or a transit system, and the tax that followed really launched Mountain Line Transit. As I mentioned, we have a lot of plans in motion or in place. Mountain Line is doing their community transit plan, Flagstaff in motion. The city's active transportation master plan is under public comment period. You just heard some discussion on the carbon neutrality plan and how to get it implemented. And then the city is really, and the county are really picking up their efforts on the regional plan. Of course, there's implications for other plans like the recently adopted housing plan as well. We're going to try to incorporate and reference all of those plans in our effort. We are in coordination with all of our planning partners and are going to do our best to share information on public participation so we don't come back to you separately and ask all the same questions. Hopefully, we're sharing enough information we can avoid that. As far as our schedule, we hope to conclude in October with an adoption period out through December. We are really in this phase, task 4, which is the development of a couple of future scenarios that we want to evaluate, and I'll talk a little bit more about those. And we've done a lot of background information. I'll share some of that. And what I'm doing now is part of task 5, which is our public participation effort. One of the unique things we're going to be doing is an equity analysis that I think will be of particular interest to you, and I'll describe that in a bit. As I mentioned, we have a couple of scenarios, and we are projecting populations out and employment out to 2045. The first scenario is we're calling Onward, and it's really staying the course with existing transportation and land use plans. We fully expect or suspect that they won't meet the carbon neutrality goals. As those goals came in after these existing plans were put into place, but we want to illustrate just how far or how close they actually come to meeting those goals. So we'll have those voter approved projects. We'll have the current land use plans to the best of our ability to estimate where growth will occur in accordance with those plans. But we will make those current projects as sustainable as possible. Some of you may be familiar with all the discussions around the Lone Tree Overpass and the design considerations being made for more pedestrian and bicycle friendliness. And we'll take our kind of cue from that in terms of how we might modify these projects, but still meet voter expectations. Last thing I'll mention is we're going to be fiscally constrained. That's a federal mandate, as we are a federally mandated organization. And what that means is we're going to do our best to project reasonably available revenues out for that 20-25 years and make sure that what we accommodate is within those fiscal boundaries. And what that helps decision makers do is say, well, if we need to do more, it's going to cost more, and maybe how much more. So that's why we exercise that fiscal constraint. It's not just a wish list. However, our second scenario, which we're calling Upward, can be more aspirational. And again, this is more of an educational piece, if you will, to show decision makers what we think it would take from both the transportation side as well as the land use side to meet these carbon neutrality and other community goals and objectives. So we really want to look to reduce the single occupant vehicle use. We'll take a hard look at those land use plans. If we can increase density, and the carbon neutrality plan calls for an increase in density, we can create shorter trips by car as well as accommodate trips by other modes more easily as land use become closer together. I mentioned we're not going to be fiscally constrained. We're going to take those fetters off. And so as an example, right now, transit funding is kind of flat based on the previously approved tax. We could assume that there's going to be much higher levels of transit in order to meet these carbon neutrality goals and put a price tag to that so that people are aware of what it would cost. But there's nothing that prevents us from doing that in this scenario. As an organization, we don't dictate policy, but we can illustrate the effects of different policy approaches and share that with decision makers. So we're talking to you and other commissions and other groups around the community because we consider you stakeholders Your experience and your perspectives are important to our planning effort, and we hope to be back, back later as we have more content to share with you. So here's a brief question, and I'll look to you, Madam Chair, to help with the facilitation here. And this is really, kind of an icebreaker, kind of for fun, but we will use this both for helping us define that vision, but also as a kind of a lens to look at the projects and strategies that we propose. So here's the question. In your travels around the country or even around the world, where and what is the finest transportation system you've experienced? And maybe it's an entire system that integrates driving and transit and walking and biking, or maybe it's part of a system. Maybe you really enjoyed the Autobahn in Germany, or maybe you really, like the trails here in Flagstaff. So just take a few minutes and share with me. Again, Madam Chair, I'll look for you to call on raised hands. What you've seen that you really liked and would like to share with us. So share away, please.
Sure. Thank you. Commissioners, do you have things that you want to mention? Commissioner Pino?
Hi, thank you for this presentation and for the inclusion of our perspectives. From my experiences, I've really enjoyed the train systems in Switzerland and the road systems in Italy, like the city-to-city systems.
Sorry, what was it about those? Maybe that's drilling down too far.
Oh, yeah, I can provide some more context. So for Switzerland, everything was just very clean and organized and on time. And there were a lot of automated systems that were really easy to follow and in like lots of languages. And then in Italy, the roads, the highway system was really clear and well marked, but also like the way that they got off, the way that you like exit the road to get gas or to stop for a convenience stop. It just felt like the traffic that stayed on the main road flowed a lot more efficiently, and the stops were were relatively frequent and very conducive to what you would need during kind of that travel.
Very good. Others? Mayor Deasy.
Yeah, thank you. I would just gonna say San Francisco's bus system, who were also early adopters of apps for GPS, so that way you could find out exact times when you would be able to catch the bus. And though some of their transportation networks is sorely lacking, like for bicyclists, though it's would be challenging to do anything similar because we're not on a grid like they are. I definitely had ease living in that city for 4 years without a vehicle at all. So, and they also had a ride share program, so that way when you did need to go a little farther out to Target or something like that, that's not on the grid as easily, it was very simple to cross the street and into a community garage and grab a vehicle. So the rideshare program and buses were excellent.
Any others? I want to say that this is kind of small potatoes compared to the world traveling that people are mentioning here. But many years ago, I lived in Coralville, Iowa, and the city bus system was reliable. It was frequent. it was affordable. There was a small charge, but it was affordable. It was safe. And then when we came to Flagstaff, I found that the mountain line was very much like that. And it's something I've always liked about living in Flagstaff, is that there was this similar situation where the mountain line it's affordable to me, and it's safe, and the buses come frequently, and that was a bonus. I like riding. I like riding the mountain line, and have some young people in my life, and sometimes just for fun, we get on a bus. So I realize that the mountain line is not as accessible to all of the citizens of Flagstaff as it happens to be for me. And that perhaps is something that will change as years go by. Commissioner Hardy?
Yeah, thank you. I agree. When I was in school, gosh, many, many years ago, when I was an undergraduate student at NAU, I was there when the Route 10 was first being established, I think, like through campus, and that was free for students. And that was really helpful for me, that was free. And it really connected parts of Flagstaff that I, one, wouldn't have been able to rent at, because at the time when I was younger, I didn't have a car. So it allowed me, and that like ran along a lot of apartment complexes and such, and also allowed me like to explore Flagstaff in the area more as well, as a student without a car, and who couldn't like afford, a car up here, and to pay for parking and all that. So that was really helpful. I also know, I don't know if they're still doing it, but back when I was at NAU, when I was employed there, we also did like eco passes or something. So if you're an employee, I think there were some changes to that program, but that was also really helpful, and like incentivized people I know who worked at the university to maybe try to use their eco pass instead of trying to like pay to park at NAU, and that was really helpful too. And also too, in Flagstaff, like I love the unified trail system. I love like anywhere you are in Flagstaff, even if you're along a busy road, you're still not very far away from a trail, and it's really easy to go like anywhere in Flagstaff on the trail, which is something I really appreciate about living here, especially coming from places that are really crowded. And especially over the pandemic, I really felt super grateful to live up in Flagstaff, because I was able to step outside and walk outside. And I think I just had a new appreciation for that. Being like having the access to the trail system here was really, really wonderful, and really good for my mental health, being able to get outside and see the sun and stuff like that. And then to echo, I think what Commissioner Marcella said, which was like having lived in other countries and traveled in other countries, like affordable, super quick train or bus systems. And like you could get from one end of a country to another, or even go from country to country really quickly. And that was really helpful too. And it's something that is just really lacking in the United States as a whole. But that was something too, like in China, when I was living in there, like I was able to go from like the south of China to the north of China, and then all throughout, like, basically just all through like the rest of Southeast Asia up into like Russia even, if you wanted to. And that was so quick and really impressive considering how many people live there, and how many national holidays they have, and people are traveling a lot. And that rail system is super, considering how many people use that rail system, it's really, really fast. And I feel like I experienced less delays on using the train system there than I did even like flying around the holidays here. And same thing, with and the one thing though, when I was living in Italy, was that there was a lot of strikes, like train strikes, because people would protest because they weren't able to, like workers would protest, and so it could be challenging, and a lot of times around holidays in Italy, for example, even if there was a lot of strikes in Italy. And so that really caused some delays. So I guess it was a good thing, the trade-off, that it was like affordable and quick to travel, because it gave you time to prepare for a train strike. So, but yeah, that was, yeah, that's what came to mind for me.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I somehow managed to mute myself. I appreciate the input. These are some great examples. I would ask a clarifying question about the town in Iowa. It
No,
was
you got it right. Yeah.
Coralville. Okay, excellent.
And it's
Uh,
counterintuitive because you don't think of Iowa as having coral, but evidently there were fossils.
Either that, or maybe someone like our former mayor lived there.
Perhaps.
Yeah. So let me continue on, and I do have another question coming up, but we'll get to that pretty quickly. So I'd like you to invite you to go to our website to learn more at metroplanflg.org/strideforward. On that website, you can find some content. We're regularly adding to that. It includes a literature review that has strategies for reducing vehicle miles of travel. It discusses what we think might happen to travel patterns in the long term due to COVID. You know, my presentation from home being one example. We have some demographic information and a socioeconomic profile, and the results of a random sample survey. And we'll be posting the results of a online survey here shortly. An example from the literature review, VMT is vehicle miles of travel. At the far left end are the ones that are most effective in reducing vehicle miles of travel, which has an impact on greenhouse gas emissions. So this is transit-oriented development and density, priced parking, street connectivity, and then the far right end, things that are a little less effective, bike share programs and scooter share programs. But they can help with general mobility. As far as that random sample survey is concerned, here's an example of a question we asked that we find interesting in terms of the results. We asked, how do you get around today? And how would you like to get around in 10 years? And even though it's aspirational, we see a strong interest in people shifting to walking, biking, and transit away from automobiles. And we'll look at that as we do some modeling and other evaluation of our future scenarios. Is what kind of shift are we seeing in those future scenarios? Does it match what people are aspiring to? And is it large enough to meet our carbon neutrality goals? So those are some of the things that we are asking about and that we'll be evaluating. We know that there's many issues besides climate change, but climate change is important. 40% of greenhouse gas emissions in this region come from transportation and mobile sources. So as a transportation planning organization, we're very interested in that. But we also know that housing affordability is a critical issue for the region. And we know that transportation can contribute to one. I think a couple of you mentioned I could live without a car. Well, if you don't have to pay for a car or a second car, perhaps you can afford more housing. We also know that the right kind of transportation, mix, can support affordable housing types, more dense housing. So we'll be looking at that. Of perhaps key interest to this group is, in terms of diversity awareness, is really looking at this question of equity. This is a very busy map. I don't expect you to read it. Just know that as we look at different areas of town, there may be different groups with accessibility risks, groups that perhaps are in minority, experience poverty, have disabilities, or are older. So we want to know where all those overlap and where we have, these stronger risks of accessibility, and we want to understand that. So we're going to do a unique, for us, evaluation of accessibility from these areas to basic services like pharmacies, groceries, parks, educational institutions, and compare those to the accessibility of the region as a whole to see if people have equitable access to transportation, then see what we need to do about that. So here's my next question, then I only have a couple brief slides to wrap up. And that is, what kind of questions through the Stride Forward process can we answer for you? Don't anticipate necessarily answering them for you today, but it will give us good direction as we run through our analyses and talk to different groups to know which answers to look for. So, Madam Chair, I'll turn it back to you to kind of facilitate the discussion, and I'll take notes.
Well, one thing that I was thinking about as you were speaking has to do with the comments that were made about rail transportation in other countries and how that connects. I realize that you are talking about a particular bounded local area here, but I guess I'm hoping that at some point in the future, here is better connected to other places as well. And I don't know what that's going to look like or if it'll even happen.
Okay. Other questions?
Anyone else? Commissioner Hardy.
I think that's a really great question, especially considering how, especially specifically as it relates to the Northern Arizona area. And a lot of people I know who live and work in Flagstaff, or who work in Flagstaff, they might, live in another, another area outside of Flagstaff. And I think that also really relates to equity, considering how expensive it is to live here. And even other places in the Northern Arizona area are becoming more and more expensive, even to buy homes or rent even. It's getting really expensive. And so, yeah, when I think of places like Cottonwood or the Verde Valley and, even neighboring counties and stuff. And I'm wondering if there's maybe any opportunities to partner with, other county governments or other residents in other counties or other cities, because it can be really challenging, as I'm sure I don't need to explain to you. But and then my other question, I think maybe I'm not sure who this question would even be asked to, but something that's really important to me as I look out my window onto Butler is what kind of sacrifices people are maybe our local government or anyone, any kind of stakeholder is willing to make for the safety of our community members, because I am not really personally very interested in people talking about safety, for example, if it's just going to be a show of safety, or just saying the right things or saying the nice things, but if they're not willing to make any sort of real sacrifice so that we can have an actual safe transportation system, because I personally don't want to lose any more friends because they get run over by trucks. So, and that's kind of all I have to say about that. But I'm it's really hard. I personally will say that I don't think I have like the capacity to participate in this group in any sort of as like a stakeholder beyond the capacity of this commission, because yeah, it's really hard for me to think about transportation without thinking about safety, because yeah, just because my friends keep getting hit by cars and trucks. So and maybe as that relates to that, obviously I know we have like a transportation committee or whatever at the city and a bicycling group at the city. But I think for me especially is like weather, how that relates to weather in Flagstaff as well. Like icy roads and what can be done to help minimize those kinds of concerns, like, you know, icy roads and wet roads, and, you know, roads that are, you know, if, for example, like even just driving a mile away from where I live, mile and a half away, like roads that get blocked off by flooding, and roads that may, you know, get blocked off, it may be further distances, like because of fire or smoke or something. Those are really important concerns that I have, being able to be on the road, whether you're walking, driving, bicycling, as safely as possible. So I want to know what we can do to keep this community as safe as possible.
No,
And
thank
reduce,
you.
and what do, like, what are people going to do to reduce points of contact here? Because those bike lanes aren't going to, like, in my personal opinion, as I again look outside my window, those bike lanes, those concrete corridors or whatever, would not have stopped, like, it wouldn't have reduced the point of contact in the intersection where my friend died. So that's, and yeah, I want to reduce points of contact in the city. So
That's
I,
really
I'm
important.
sorry for your loss, that and
Yeah.
all of our loss. To have that kind of tragedy, I think, is a diminution of how we all feel about our community. And so I appreciate the way you pose that question in terms of the sacrifice that we'd be willing to make to ensure the safety. So thank you.
Commissioner Pino?
Hi, yes, and thank you, Claire, for bringing up safety. I agree, that's number one. I guess my question, I don't know if it's so much of a question or just a consideration, but when we talk about equity framework for transportation, I always think about like carpool lane models, and how you know, when you think about who needs to get somewhere the most quickly, often they're not able to opt into the carpool lane functionality, right? You've got people who are working multiple jobs or dealing with multiple kid drop-offs, pickups, maybe crossing long distances for commuters because they can't afford to live where they work. And I just wonder if there's a way to design a system to where the people who have the most need have the most priority to access things like speed to arrival for getting to their job or for picking up their kids. So I guess it's not so much well, maybe it is a structural component of the design, but more so an access component, and maybe flipping the model from who can afford to like buy the upgrade, quote unquote, versus like how do we have a system of need to determine who needs the upgrade the most and offer it based on that instead.
Great. Well, thank you very much for this. Some very insightful questions, and we'll do our best to circle back to you in some capacity with answers. So in interest of time, I'm going to move on. Coming up this month, we hope to put out a performance report for baseline conditions of 2019. That would be pre-COVID. That's when we have our baseline data to compare to and produce a model for. And so that'll be a variety of metrics on vehicle miles of travel and the accessibility metrics that I mentioned and other things. We will have our land use and employment projections prepared for that first onward scenario, and have those available, followed by an analysis hopefully shortly thereafter. Our next online survey As I mentioned, we've completed our first online survey. We'll have a report on that soon. The next online survey will hopefully go up either this afternoon or tomorrow, and we'll be putting together a report. I think you are the final presentation in my stakeholder outreach. And with that, I want to say thank you very much for your time today. It's been really a pleasure spending some time with you. So any final questions or comments before I sign off?
This is Claire. I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to include us in your discussion and to extend these questions to us and to make the time for us and for our broader community. Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for taking the time to do that. And I really look forward to seeing seeing this work unfold in our community, you know, both in the present moment, but also for everyone in the future. I really think that this is going to be such a good step for everyone who lives here, present and future. So thank you.
You're very welcome, and thank you for having me.
I agree with that. And I also thank you for being here and for considering diversity as a part of this picture, that it certainly is. And in the interest of serving all of the diverse populations, I appreciate your hearing our voices about this.
All right. Well, you all enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
We have just a few remaining agenda items, and it is close to 3 o'clock. I want to respect everyone's time. The next things on the agenda are equitable restroom recommendation. Jessica, is there anything about that that we need to discuss today?
Thank you, Chair. Let me pull up my note real quick. So I just wanted to provide a quick update based on the conversation from last meeting. I did reach out just to the city clerk's office and they had, you know, reminded me, I guess I was in the city council meeting where this was talked about, but reminded me that this item is currently assigned to a staff member in the organization. It is listed on the future agenda items queue. This means that it's waiting for some research and staff work before it can move forward again. And that, oh, we had also, there was some brief follow-up from last meeting just regarding the possible additions to the recommendation that was provided. I think it, you know, kind of based on the response, my understanding is once the commission, should the commission decide to amend that recommendation, I can pass along that amended recommendation to the mayor's office, but it really doesn't need to go back before council at this point, since the item is under the pending kind of queue. The full recommendation and follow-up will be brought forward to council. But if the work, I can't remember now if we had a work group or not, but those changes can be made and then the amended recommendation will be forwarded on. So it was also a reminder that just given the staffing levels at the city, unfortunately, these items are taking much longer than anticipated for follow-up. And just kind of given where we're at, but it is in the queue. So it may be some time before we have follow-up, but certainly the commission can submit that kind of amended recommendation, if you will, and add it to that original recommendation. So I hope that provides a little bit of follow-up and clarity from our last conversation. I know we were a little bit at a standstill for a little bit there, and unfortunately maybe for a little bit longer.
Right. There, in terms of the making any amendments, that's not something I don't think that we can accomplish today anyway. So let's we'll talk about what we need to do with regard to the agenda about revisiting that if need be. And then the other thing that's on our agenda for today is Municipal Equity Index, which we haven't got very much time for, but I know that Chris Rohde is here. I don't know if there's anything that we need to tackle today.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Not sure if you wanted to mention anything or if you were just joining to listen. I'll let you go first. Otherwise, I have a quick update.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I don't really have an update on this item today. I'm here to listen and always be a resource where I can be, but I have not done much in the last month on this. We've been doing our budget for the last couple weeks, so that's been most of my time. I haven't done much on items like this.
Yeah, understandable. And we can plan for time for you to speak back to us if you at a future date wish to do so. So just keep us in the loop there.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Absolutely. And to kind of further that, yeah, Chris will definitely, let me know and I'll check in with our agenda work group on, an update once there is follow-up or next steps, but the city clerk's office also kind of provided a good reminder that, in the meantime, the commission can work on either, recommendations or wait for really an update on this project. I think, kind of my understanding based on our conversations so far is we'll just, the commission wants to maybe wait until there is some kind of forward moving action on this. But it was a good reminder that please feel free to put forward any recommendations or suggestions for Chris's office to work on once this work is moving forward.
Very good. Okay. With regard to our agenda item number 10, which is agenda items for future meetings, there actually are 4, I think, listed. Renaming of the peaks, future priorities, some things that we had listed for that, regional plan, and the Flagstaff Public Library's Anti-Racism Committee. So all of those are on the radar screen for future meetings. And I just want to say, and Jessica, I'm interested in your input on this, but I want to say that if any of you commissioners have thoughts about those agenda items or anything else that should be added to the agenda, if you would let Jessica know within 1 week from today so that we can start constructing the agenda for the next meeting. I know that sounds like soon, but it really helps if we start thinking about what we need to talk about next time. Jessica, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, thank you. We certainly have had some very full agendas, which is incredible and it's awesome. We do have some more presentations for next month, and so that's really positive. But yes, please send information. It's always helpful to have an approximate time frame associated with each item. So then when I meet with Dee and Jean, we can kind of sit down and draft the agenda to hopefully get everything in. I know this month we thought we were gonna be fine on time, but it's okay. It's good discussion, and we do want to keep things moving forward. So yeah, I think that would be great. Just send those to me, and just a reminder, please send me any opportunities or announcements to share with the group. I'm trying to limit the number of separate emails that go out aside from agendas, and so please send me those as well.
Jessica, the turnaround time for getting things on the agenda is a week from today, about right? Or what would your thinking be?
Oh,
optimally.
Optimally, let's see. That's a great question. 2 weeks actually from today's meeting would be ideal. So the 29th for agenda items.
Okay. Very good. And is there anything anyone else wishes to add before we adjourn? And if not, it's 3:07 p.m. and I adjourn the meeting of the Commission on Diversity Awareness. And thank you all for your participation and for your willingness to stay till the very end. Appreciate that.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good rest of your afternoon.
You too. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.